Welcome, Internet, to the Pixel Play Podcast, your weekly podcast where we dive deep into all the topics making news in the gaming world. If you're interested in that, we are available on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. This week, we are joined by myself, Kaylan, aka Ktastrophy. As always, my co-host, Adam, CSRadical. And auditioning for Adam's job is Kevin, aka the Muffin Man from Project XTalk. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, I didn't know this was an audition. I did, obviously. He didn't. We were going to keep that little hush-hush until after the show, see how things go. But yeah, hi everyone. Kevin, aka the Muffin Man. I'm from Project XTalk and Xbox-centric podcast. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invite, guys.
I am going to take my technology and run. This is blasphemous. I cannot stand this right now. I will not stand for this.
Adam, you know you're irreplaceable, so don't sweat it. Ladies and gentlemen, we've brought Kevin in to talk about E3. That's right, E3 is wrapped up. We thought we'd go a little bit deeper, and we wanted to bring someone who's maybe not as much of a Sony pony as Adam and I are. So this week, we're going to be talking about what we saw at E3, what worked, what didn't, who are the winners, who are the losers. We're going to be talking about whether Sony made the right call to not come to E3, and talk about the general health and well-being of E3 in general. Once again, if you like what you hear, we are available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast by searching Pixel Play Podcast. We are also on social media, on Instagram and Twitter at Pixel Play Cast. Before we get in, gentlemen, how are we doing? How are we feeling now that E3 is all wrapped up?
I feel like there is a lot of chaos in the air right now.
I'm good. I'm exhausted, and my week is not over. I still have some indie dev interviews I got to get done, some indie reviews that we got to get out for our channel. So we did get the E3 media pass, and we've been working with indie devs since last week. I've been waking up at ungodly hours doing interviews with Bulgarian developers. So
look at this guy being all professional here, eh?
I know, right?
He's got interviews to do.
Adam, Kevin, you quickly just kind of mentioned what you're from, but I wanted to give you a proper introduction. You are actually our first guest on the Pixel Play podcast, so I kind of wanted to let everyone get to know who you are, what you're all about. So you mentioned briefly your podcast, Project XTalk. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, yeah. Project XTalk is a weekly podcast all about Xbox, is how we like to introduce it. So we go over the Xbox news, games, rumors, fun topics related to Xbox, general gaming news if it somehow can relate to the Xbox ecosystem. So we're really just bringing games. We have weekly guests from the community. We've had the likes of Luke Lore, aka the Insipid Ghost. We've had Lord Cognito from the Iron Lords podcast on there. So we've had people from the community. We try to get a guest on every week. So yeah, we're live every Thursday around 5 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to come over to our YouTube channel, Project XTalk on YouTube, and hang out, that's great. Otherwise, you can find us on all podcast services the day after.
Awesome. And let's find out a little bit about you. So we were kind of go over what to kind of talk about to introduce yourself. And Adam wanted to hear, what is your gaming hot take?
So we actually did a most controversial gaming opinions episode a few months ago, probably now, yeah, because it was Husk. And my big one that I saved is the one I'm going to repeat here. Mario as a character sucks ass.
Ooh.
Honestly, I think that's probably the hottest one we've had. Like, Adam and I have kind of talked about ours, and like, I took swings at Metal Gear and Zelda, which are like kind of dangerous, targets to go for, but that's pretty controversial.
Yeah, I've taken shots at Metal Gear myself, but Mario is not a good character. Luigi, his brother, however, is a much better developed character with personality. Mario is boring, and Mario sucks.
I will fully agree with you as long as we replace Mario with Waluigi, and then I'm down. It's the only way he's going to get in Smash. Let's be honest. He has to take Mario's place or he'll never get in. That's just the reality.
I don't want him in Smash. He's an assist trophy. He's good. He's good.
Well, at this point, you don't want him in there because at this point, the joke is over. You can't meme it anymore if he's in Smash.
I'm gonna bet that he is going to be the last character. It's just like to kind of just.
Sakurai's gonna retire, and he still won't do it as a joke. Just as one more thing to go with.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what, that's a pretty good hot take. And you know what, I kind of like. I don't want to agree with you, but like you're making a strong point. Like he has very little character.
I was gonna say, like, how much have you really gotten of? Like, even Super Mario RPG didn't give us much Mario.
No, Mario is just I'm good because, and I saved the princess because. Like he has no actual character depth. Meanwhile, Luigi's over there exploring mansions. He's afraid of ghosts. We know so much more about Luigi than we do Mario.
Well, my understanding is that they were both plumbers together, but like, how much is Luigi getting underpaid that he has to like moonlight as a ghost exterminator? Like,
yeah, I'm starting to think Mario's the true villain in this entire series. You know,
he's going down destabilizing regimes. Like,
he's pocketing half the money and not giving it to Luigi. I think we just figured something out here.
Yeah, I think we're going down a rabbit hole that we're not gonna like where it ends up.
Oh, we'll go down. We'll be going down a few rabbit holes, but by the end of the show, I can tell. So
for sure. Adam, Kevin, let's just jump right into it. I know you guys have kind of been watching what's going on with E3. I know, Kevin, you've been going and talking to actual developers like a real professional. So let's just kind of talk. What did we see that we were really excited about? What caught your interest? Kevin, do you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. So if we'll just go, I guess I'll start chronologically. Obviously, we started with Summer Game Fest or last Thursday, and it was a decent show, I think. I think obviously Elden Ring's the big one, even though I'm not a Souls guy. That was the big reveal there.
I'm just happy they're not going to yell about it anymore.
Yeah, we don't have to hear it in every Twitch chat.
Where's Elden Ring? It's finally... No, actually, that's a lie. Until it comes out, it's still going to be, where is it? But,
Yeah.
But there were games on the Summer Game Fest that caught my eye, like Sable, which I got to try the demo for because the art looks absolutely beautiful. I don't know what the gameplay still is because all I do is show her walking and jumping. So, like, I don't know what I'm actually doing in that game. The Anna Crucix, I believe it's called, that Left 4 Dead space game where you're like in a space station. That's coming to Game Pass. That really caught my eye. I want to try that one out. And then Back 4 Blood, obviously, I'm super hyped for. Can't wait for that one.
Yeah, I mean, sticking with the whole Game Fest, I think like we'll probably be talking on and off like was a really good show. I actually like the show more than any other show on this, only because I felt entertained by the end of the show, whereas a lot of shows I felt like I was patiently waiting for nothing that came. And there was a lot of downtime. Like, when you get into interviews and stuff like that, it's really hard. Whereas this thing was straight trailer, funny thing, music number, trailer. Like, it didn't really dip in terms of, like, I didn't feel like I was like, losing focus. It felt like there was always something. Like, you had Tiny Tina Wonderland, you had Metal Slug Tactics, a game I didn't even know I wanted, and now I really want, come out of nowhere.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me. That game came out of nowhere, and I loved Gears Tactics, and I was like, wow.
I miss Final Fantasy Tactics so bad that I'm willing to accept this as my new Final Fantasy Tactics. I'm good with that. I'll take it. But yeah, like, on top of that, then you had that really beautiful... I can't remember what it was Japanese something. I can't remember what the band was. I think it was for Sable. It might have been a different game, but I can't remember.
Japanese Breakfast Club or
something like that, yeah. And then they had Weezer. I was really disappointed. We made our joke last week on the podcast that as a joke wish list, I wanted Weezer to come out and play Beverly Hills as they advertised GTA 6, because I thought it'd be funny. But, like, either way, like, it was cool. And then to end off with Elden Ring, like, that was the smart move, like... Of all people, Jeff Keighley being able to say it's finally here makes perfect sense from a gamer perspective. And then even like small stuff, like Among Us revealing that they're going to do a hide and seek mode, which is something that like players have been asking for forever because they've been doing that on their own as it is. So like, I felt that by the end of that show specifically, I was like, okay, there wasn't anything that blew me away because like Kevin said, I'm not a big Soulsborne guy, so it wasn't too big a deal for me. But even then, I'm like, I know how much that means to that fan base, so that's a big way to end it. And as we get into further shows, there's going to be a common denominator where I keep saying, you didn't close the show well, whereas I felt like Summer Game Fest actually did exactly what it needed to do because they weren't going to have the massive game that, Xbox or Sony or Nintendo would hold back because why would they give that to Jeff? So if for him getting Elden Ring, that's as big as a final closing reveal that he can get, really, without like Kojima being like, here's my new game. But instead we got Norman Reedus in a box, and I was okay with that.
Yeah, for me, like the ones that kind of stood out for me for Summer Game Fest, and I guess we can kind of go show by show, or at least the big ones that we want to talk about. I think Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, like I'm not a Borderlands guy. I didn't play any of them, but just kind of like the, switching it up and like kind of like seeing a sort of dragons and machine guns, like that's freaking awesome. And like when you think of it, they got like so many like comedians in there that game is going to be a hoot. Like it's going to remind me of like Brutal Legends, where it's just entertaining and so funny, like from the people that they have in there, because like they have Andy Samberg, they have Wanda Sykes, like those are hilarious people, and to have those as your characters is just going to be huge.
I will take any excuse to keep Ashley Birch in the Tiny Tina role, because that is literally one of my favorite characters in gaming still to this day.
Like that her character is Tiny Tina, like I know she's there, but that means nothing to me. But even just kind of seeing that trailer, it's like, yeah, I'm totally in for this. Like this sounds awesome. Metal Slug Tactics, that looks awesome. I really appreciate like what Elden Rings means for people, but like for me it doesn't really hit anything there. So like those were the big ones for me from Summer Game Fest, and like I thought those were like great starts, and we're gonna go into it a little bit more, but yeah, I think that I think Summer, like that one was a pretty good start. Any other games or any other conference shows, like we're not gonna go into how they went, but any other games that kind of stood out for you guys,
like from that show or from like any of the small stuff?
Just I'm throwing it out there for all you guys, like which games in the whole weekend, I guess, kind of stood out for you guys that kind of caught your interest.
Well, why don't we quickly get rid of the small stuff before we get into the other big ones? Because I mean, obviously you're gonna have Nintendo, Square, Xbox, and Ubisoft, because those are the four biggies. Mm-hmm. So like, was there anything outside of like PC Gaming Show, Devolver Digital, IGN Expo? I think the one that stood out for me would have been Dodgeball Academia, because it legitimately looked like remember like the old Mario Golf, Mario Tennis games on like Game Boy Advance? It reminded me of that, but dodgeball form. And I'm like, I don't know how good this is going to be, but if it's anything remotely like that, my nostalgia is going to be like, I need this so bad right now.
I think out of all those smaller shows, Devolver Digital had a good show in my opinion.
They're so goddamn funny too.
Yeah, they're so funny. Death's Door, I pre-ordered it because it's 15% off, and it looks phenomenal. I cannot wait to play that game.
Yeah, between those, that show, Phantom Abyss and Inscription both really looked good.
Yeah, Devolver's secretly a really good publisher. They take chances on games that are like they turn out to be like cult hits. That's how I view them. I basically know that if Devolver is publishing it, it's probably going to be good, but like it's going to go under the radar, so you should probably check it out. But I didn't care for any of the Future Game Showcase, no, the PC, no. The Indie Showcase yesterday, I'm a little biased because 3 out of the 5 that were showcased were developers I hit up for interviews and review codes, so I already was like interested in them. And one I will highlight, even though I think there's a few, and if people look at my channel, they can see what I'm talking about. But it is Nico Ghost Jump or Ghost Nico Jump. I forget which one. It's a very interesting name. But essentially, it's a platformer that you can switch between 2 and 3D perspectives. So you'll be running like regular Super Mario and then just switch to the front and like. It's a very unique take on it.
Yeah, it's got like a Sonic Generations feel to it. Just instead of it being separate levels, it's all in one.
Yeah.
Because I've got the trailer up on the screen right now for those watching the video version on our YouTube channel. Yeah, I love how that looks.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You play as a little cat that you can customize, and it's just a completely unique take on platformer that I've never seen before. So I'm excited to play that.
Awesome. Yeah, for me, it was like the big ones that kind of stood out. There were some really interesting indie games that kind of came across, but like nothing like huge for me in that sense.
Like otherwise with the small shows, like I could point out Tunic, which looked basically like old school Zelda just with a fox, which I'm like, okay, down for that.
I hear it's hard.
Okay, maybe I'm not so down for that now. Otherwise, there was a couple of weird ones. Like honestly, games that I didn't know that I wanted, like everybody saw like House Flipper on Steam, and that like exploded because it's one of those games that like you don't know that you would want until you play it. I watched the IGN Expo and saw the trailer for Unpacked, and it's literally just a game about unpacking boxes. And I went, that is going to satisfy every part of my brain that I'm going to probably get and just adore. Because I kind of like chill games a lot now. Like, I'm playing the new Minecraft update because they just did Cliffs and Caves. So I've been messing with that because it's a good unwinding game. And I've said before in the show too, like a game like Coffee Talk, like I love games that are just good to just kind of mellow you out for an hour, and that's fine. Like Unpacked seems like a perfect game for that. Otherwise, there were maybe like a couple things from the PC Gaming Show. There was a lot of stuff on and off. PC Gaming Show is a weird show for me because I feel like that show is literally for so hardcore PC gamers, and that usually includes a lot of RTS games, which my brain goes, I am too stupid for that. Like, I can't remember who showed Age of Empires 4, but I looked at that and be like, oh, I know, like, 5 people are going to love that, and I'm going to hate having to listen to it for a while. So I guess I know one of them on the show.
I grew up on AoE and CNC. That was where I was. None of that Warcraft or StarCraft. I was AoE and CNC.
The only other one I could think of that I saw that looked really interesting was Lakeburg Legacies, which just looked like a game where it's you, like, building, like, a lineage over the course of, like, in this, like, I guess medieval world, just trying to like make a family that actually goes somewhere. Almost seems like medieval Sims without it being like in full control. Again, it's just one of those games that seems like super chill that you would just kind of burn a bunch of time in, which in these days, I'll take anything that can chill me out for like a couple of hours and then be done for the day for. So good, yeah.
Spiritual partner to Rogue Legacy. You're seeing how they made that lineage.
No. Rogue Legacy is panic inducing. No, that's a bad idea. Blake, seems like
it's how they got that lineage. That's how they're creating the next character for that.
Am I gonna have to kill off a bunch of my players intentionally? Oh man.
Yeah. For me, the name escapes me. What's that college university simulator where you're basically building?
Oh, 2 Point Campus.
Yeah, 2 Point Campus.
That one kind of like, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I spent so much time in academia, but I kind of want to run my own university.
You're just sitting there being like, this is what I would have done, so I wouldn't have had such a bad time.
If there's not an option to have like an Animal House frat house, they've missed the mark.
But it's just a literal Animal House.
No, like have Animal House, and they just constantly sabotage and undermine.
No, I'm telling you, with how weird that game looks, of like some of the courses you can take. No, it's going to be a literal Animal House. I guarantee.
Yeah, for sure. Any other kind of highlights we want to go over before we start doing deep dives into some of the major press conferences?
No, I say let's get into the big ones.
Let's start chewing on some bones.
Yeah, let's get into the meat and potatoes. So we're going to talk about E3 as a whole, but let's kind of start with like a little bit more smaller stuff. So let's start first with Summer Game Fest.
We just did.
Or you know what? Let's open it up. Let's not go one by one. We're not going to do that. Let's just talk generally. Like, what are the developers? What are the shows that succeeded? What are the ones that failed? So this is open to you guys, however you guys want to take it. You know, what did that show come out? What did they have to do? And did they do it? So I'll start just to kind of give an example. So for me, I think Summer Game Fest was a hit. I was very critical of Jeff Keighley and Summer Game Fest last year. I thought it was way too spread out, there wasn't enough content for how much it was spread out. And when he was saying he was doing the show again, I'm like, I'm optimistic. Like, I think it's better that they do a 1.5 hour, kind of 2 hour show, as long as it's filled with content and games and there's a reason to watch. And I mean, not every game there hit, but I mean, the fact that he started out with, a pretty large game with Tiny Tina's Wonderland, and then finishing with Elden Ring, like, he had games to show.
It felt like an E3 conference.
It felt like an E3 conference. And I think, for Jeff, like, he totally hit the mark in terms of he needed to come out and show that he had games to show and it wasn't just filling time. Sure, there was stuff that he had to fill to pay bills and stuff and, that kind of stuff. But overall, I felt content-wise, he had stuff to show, especially compared to some of the other people who came in out and presented.
Well, I mean, realistically, he didn't have to sit in a chair with Doritos and Mountain Dew next to him, so that was a plus.
Exactly.
But I mean, as a show, like, it was perfectly fine. Like, if he does this every 6 months, because he's going to do the exact same thing with the Game Awards, the only difference is he's going to hand out awards along with these trailers. So I think it works out pretty nicely that if he wants to be the kickoff show for E3 every year, I'm okay with an hour special. And if there's going to be musical acts or Jeff Goldblum coming in to do a diatribe for 3 minutes, which was awesome. So
it
like
was so weird but awesome at the same time. Like I was like, what is this?
I'm okay with Jeff Keighley having a show where they do wacky shit instead of Ubisoft, which has to have some weird ass fucking Just Dance like dance number every year that I sit there and be like, this is 5 minutes that could have gone to something else.
But they have to show you what Just Dance is in case you have never seen it the last 10 years.
Yeah, you know.
No. Summer Game Fest was good. It exceeded my expectations, which were low because I did not like last year at all. Summer was a mess last year for gaming. But
yeah, I think we can all agree that if it's one day rather than like over the span of like 3 months, it's going to be perfectly fine.
Yeah. It wasn't a perfect show. There's some pacing issues in the middle. It got a little slow and some stuff that he can cut. But overall, I think he definitely succeeded in getting Summer Game Fest on the map, essentially, as being recognized as a legitimate event compared to last year where we were all taking the piss out of it. And like, you know, it's nobody really liked it. And Jeff Grubb with his, whatever he's doing over there, mocking it. But I would transition. Then we had Ubisoft was the next big one, right, on Saturday. And for me, this conference did not need to happen.
I hated it.
Ubisoft did not need to be here. And I'm biased. If anyone is listening that has listened to my podcast, I do not particularly like Ubisoft games. I dislike their open world generic formulas. I don't vibe with any of their franchises that they have going on right now. And all I wanted was Splinter Cell. And it's literally...
Oh yeah, I won the bet. I forgot. I won the bet from last week.
We have a man of culture and knowledge here. Recognized game, Splinter Cell. Yes.
Yes, Splinter Cell is all they needed. And it's like they're teasing us by putting him in everything but his own game. He's got a freaking Netflix show coming.
At least they didn't insult you by redoing Elite Squad again.
Yeah, I'm just so over Ubisoft at the moment. And it's like I gave them a shot. I actually bought Immortals Phoenix Rising because I was like, this looks interesting. I like Greek mythology. And I honestly wish that was just a linear story campaign because I like the story. Everything else in the world, cut it out. I hated every minute of walking through that, doing all the stupid little things that they had. I got through that game as quick as possible because I like the story. But like, we got Rocksmith Plus, Just Dance. Like, who's asking for these things, Ubisoft? These could have been tweets.
I'm not going to lie. I asked for Rocksmith.
Yeah. I'll jump on that one too, because like I think Ubisoft was a total failure as well. And for me, I think what they had to do is they had to come out and kind of show that, hey, we're not just 3 or 4 franchises and just milking those to death. Like we have other games that are, with variety.
And instead they just show DLC for every game that they have out right now.
Well, it seems so generic and just blended. Like I thought Rocksmith was probably the best thing in that show, and I was watching it and like
the second I saw that where they gave an actual proper tool to make your own songs in that game, I'm like, the modders are going to love that. Because the modding scene in Rocksmith, for those who don't know it, is already incredible. It still is constantly updated because I play it religiously because I'm a guitarist. I love refreshing my skills. Yeah. Every week there's like 50, 100 songs, whether it's updated versions, whether it's completely new stuff, it's constantly going. If you give them a proper tool now that makes it even easier, oh man, it's going to get bigger. So I love the fact that they're doing that.
I mean, it didn't fit in the show in the sense that like it's not a game.
It could have been a solo trailer for sure. Yeah.
It's a learning tool, and I just like, this is awesome. Like this showing that Ubisoft does do some creative and original stuff, but like the rest of it was all just like generic. Like
I'll say Extraction looked kind of neat. I'm curious about that because it had a bit of a Rainbow Six meets Left 4 Dead feel. It's still it's still like Tom Clancy, so my brain goes, all right, I got to hold back and wait to see what everybody else thinks about it because I've seen what happens.
So I was taking notes for this game, and I'm watching Rainbow Six Extraction, and I'm just thinking, and I wrote here, Tom Clancy is spinning in his grave right now. Like, this is not like Tom Clancy.
He's already been spinning in his grave from the last like 5 games that's been made with his label on it. So
I mean, it's somewhat been grounded. Like Tom Clancy's like originally was all about like hardcore, grounded military, espionage books.
Yeah. Now they're like aliens.
Yeah, like aliens that shoot like stuff at you. And it's like, this is not like, there is no reason this needs to be called Rainbow Six.
Yeah, and then
So
No, you don't understand. You're tactically shooting aliens.
Yeah, tactically shooting the aliens, because aliens don't understand human tactics, so we have
Exactly.
the advantage.
They totally don't have technology that can probably just see us through the walls, slowly like peeking around the corner.
Is Ubisoft had the Avatar game, right?
I mean, it was an Avatar cutscene. I don't know what kind of game it is. It doesn't look that good even from the cinematic trailer.
From what I've heard, it's an open world game. Shocking.
Oh, I know. Ubisoft with an open world game. What a crazy idea. I'm sure there's going to be towers you can climb too while we're at it.
I was so pissed at that because Yves Guillemot comes on. He's like, "We're building new worlds with licensing." I'm like, "Oh shit! Are they going to show like Star Wars?" Like I think our first episode we were talking about like this, and I'm a diehard Star Wars fan, and so I was like, "Oh god, we're going to see the first glimpses of their Ubisoft, like the Ubisoft Star Wars game." Like it's early, but figure we can do a teaser trailer. No, it's Avatar. Fucking Avatar.
I feel like
Nobody
based on
cares
how
about
this
Avatar
conference
anymore.
gone,
James Cameron doesn't even care about Avatar anymore. Like nobody wants this game.
I feel like based on how this conference went, it's probably for the best they didn't show you a Star Wars game because you would have been pissed with how it looked, probably.
Like introducing our open world Star Wars game, our live service Star Wars type.
Be like, yeah, we had that. It was called Knights of the Old Republic, and it was amazing, and it's going to be redone. So, go look at what they're doing first before you try giving us any of your crap.
Yeah, I feel like Ubisoft had so much potential. Like, show us stuff that isn't just the traditional cut and paste Ubisoft. Like, I love Assassin's Creed. Like, I'm a Ubisoft fan in the sense that I play their games. Like, I like the formula, but like, even I'm getting burnt out that I need like a little bit of difference each time. But it's starting to feel very similar. And so if they came up with like, hey, Splinter Cell is here, like that is what we're craving for. Like, we even had who was the developer that was like, just license us Splinter Cell, we'll make it ourselves? Like, do you remember who that was?
I couldn't tell you.
No, I couldn't tell you. I wish Prince of Persia was here. I was disappointed. And then then they just suddenly say like, oh yeah, Prince of Persia's coming 2022 now, and that's good because the remake looked awful.
It's also a bad sign though. They're saying it's coming next year, but we don't have even like a cutscene to show you, which is like, ooh, that could be bad.
Yeah. Unless it's coming like late 2022 where they can show it at next E3. But yeah, I just felt like Ubisoft was more the same. Either just here's more generic stuff or stuff we don't care about.
Well,
like,
I mean, look, Ubisoft has had precedent before of showing trailers for games that don't exist anymore, Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Skull and Bones.
Don't get me started on that again.
Yeah, we had a whole episode where you just
I tore them a new asshole for that game.
But I mean, like they're talking about games like Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Like nobody talks about Breakpoint. Like that game came.
I didn't know anybody still played that game. I forgot it existed.
I mean, they didn't show people actually playing it, so.
And they didn't do the John Wick Watch Dogs Legion thing I told them to do. If you just put John Wick and Watch Dogs Legion, people might actually look into it. But nope.
Yeah.
They can't take good ideas.
Last one, like the last big one that they had is that Mario Rabbids game.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. I hate the Rabbids so much. They're the creepiest looking things I've ever seen. And again, I'm not a Mario fan, so this doesn't do anything for me. But isn't this like a completely different type of game compared to the other Mario and Rabbids?
Yeah, it's
the first one like
it was like XCOM.
The first one was like the first one's like XCOM. Is it? This one's not like that, right? From the trailer,
I think it is. I think it still is. Like I think the big difference is that they used to do like a grid base where you had X amount of moves you can move in the grid, and I think what they've done now is they've made areas like that you can move within. So instead of just saying you move in a grid, you have this area that you can walk around within your turn. So it's not just like it's a little bit more freeform, but I think it's still that turn-based. You're in this space. That's how far you can move. That's how far you can attack. Kind of like a Warhammer situation where it's like you have this radius that you can move around in.
Yeah, people have been kind of comparing it to Divinity Original Sin as like it's what it's kind of modeled on, which I'm like, okay. I mean, that's a good game, but I mean, I don't know, like it's Mario and Rabbids, which I already thought was a weird combination to begin with.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't think any of us are going to have drastically different opinions. And it's Mario Rabbids. I know people who play it are like, it is actually a very good game. It doesn't appeal to me. And it's the one that Nintendo seems to keep trying to push down my throat with like putting that as the only.
Yeah, the only like major game that they release that's actually on sale ever.
Yeah,
it was like
and I'm like, no.
After this announcement or something. It's like get it
How
for
much?
$5 on the. It was like $5 on the eShop. after this announcement.
Breath of the Wild, still $80.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it hasn't gone up in price since. I figured they'd start doing what every like graphics card would do. Oh no, Breath of the Wild's $200 now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
any other closing?
Yeah, I think we all agree it was a pretty bad show.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Where do you guys want to go next? Do you guys want to move over to the next? Do we want to just focus on the big ones, or do we want to do all the little ones too?
Well, I don't think we have time for all the little ones. So why don't we make the Xbox guy talk about the Xbox One? But can I ask him one question first?
Sure.
How soon are you buying that fridge?
I'm not buying it. No, I don't need the mini fridge.
I couldn't believe they actually did it. I'm like, you guys are either really smart or really dumb for falling for the meme.
They just have so much money, they don't care.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't.
They got all that like Microsoft Outlook money, like they're rolling in it.
Yeah. No, we can talk about Xbox if we want to. I mean, chronologically, that was the next one.
I mean, I'll ask the one serious question then. How the hell do you have a game that everybody's known about for like years and not show gameplay of in Starfield? Because I still don't know what that game is.
I mean,
it's in space. I got that much.
Todd Howard kind of spoke about what it was after the fact,
which is a problem.
It's Skyrim. It's Skyrim in space is basically what It's an RPG. I mean, if you have to hear more than that, I don't. I have known that's what it's going to be forever. They didn't show gameplay, and I'm actually glad they didn't show gameplay. I know that's a weird thing to say because nobody likes CG trailers, but Bethesda is infamous for bugs and glitches, so I would rather them not make a gameplay vertical slice over a year away and really just give us this and then keep working on the game, because I've talked to developers and those E3 slices are very taxing. They take a lot of time and resources away from development. People do not like making them. So really, I'm okay with them doing the classic Bethesda and showing Starfield like 5 months before, like next June, 5 months before release. I think that's the perfect time to show it.
I'm really curious though.
Like a Fallout 4 kind of thing?
Yeah.
I'm really curious though. Like I always wonder it because I guess if I talk to a developer, maybe I could find the answer to that. If your game, like let's say one of your games you're advertising is going to be coming out in October, is there not like a 5-minute interval in the game that you can't show? Like is it that still under wraps or under construction that they can't even show like even just a small segment somewhere? Because I honestly wonder. I guess with Starfield, because it's November next year, that is a significant amount of time. So I'm willing to let that one go. But like I've seen games that like they'll say, "Oh, it's coming out in 3 months," and we'll be like, "Well, then why didn't you show us the gameplay? Because clearly you're like day one patches away from it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure. All I know is I've spoke to we had a former Sony developer on, Chris Grinnell, worked on Killzone and Wipeout. He told us it's very taxing for these studios to make these kind of vertical slices, and people don't want to do it. So I was fine with Starfield. I thought it piqued my interest enough. I really just wanted to be Bethesda's Mass Effect. I have 100% in Mass Effect 1 and 2 in the Legendary Edition.
I'm totally not playing that as well.
So I'm working through 3. A little sidetrack now with Ratchet and Clank, but yeah, I just want more. It just reminded me how much I love like space RPGs. So please just make this your Mass Effect, and I'll be happy with it.
You know what we need, though? We need that game and The Outer Worlds 2 to be launched at the exact same time. Let them fight it out.
I'm pretty sure The Outer Worlds 2, which my co-host freaked out about on our live stream. I don't care about The Outer Worlds. That's not a game I will play. I don't like Fallout. I know that's a weird, like, I don't like the Fallout type of RPGs. I like Skyrim and the Elder Scrolls series. I don't like Fallout. I don't like The Outer Worlds. So that didn't do anything for me. But that game is years away, like 2025 probably. Like
yeah, I'd say probably 2023. I just want to actually like being the resident.
Avowed's going to be 2023, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Obsidian only has so many hands that they can.
I mean, they might make it 2023. It might be broken as hell.
They got all that Outlook money. They got Clippy there, sign him checks for them. Like, they're good. Kevin, as like the resident Xbox guy, you mentioned that, Bethesda has a history of coming out with glitchy games and stuff. Like, do you think that is going to be the case now that they are under one house and working on really one machine? Like, I thought when Bethesda became an Xbox, partner and publisher or developer, that they were going to not have as many bugs because they're going to be building for one system and they don't have to kind of make it compatible for both. Do you think that's going to be the case?
Yeah. Was it Pete? Was it Pete Hines? I forget who said it, but someone over there literally just did an interview where they said that building for one ecosystem will be a lot easier and make games a lot more refined so they can make better polished games. Plus they have Microsoft's like QA and money backing them now. So I think the fact that Starfield was rumored to come out this year, and if it wasn't for the pandemic, that was going to be their target release date. I think the fact they get a whole nother year to really work on it and refine it, I think it might be the least buggy game they've ever put out. Like, it has the potential.
Knock on wood. Yeah, so let's go a little bit more deep into Xbox. Let's just start, really surface level. Kevin, what did you think of the conference overall for Microsoft? What did they have to come in and do, and did they do it?
So I thought the conference, first of all, what they had to do, I think, is a better place to start. What Microsoft had to do was give people a reason to buy an Xbox. Like, the Xbox One generation almost made me quit gaming. And I say that as someone that had an Xbox. Like, I hated last generation on Xbox. It was mainly using for media. There were very few games I actually enjoyed. Like, off the top of my head, it's like Battleborn, Hellblade. Like, those are the games that I actually really enjoyed on that console.
I was a 360 guy and was ready to go on to the next one. Yeah. And the second they did their DRM, like no use game sports box thing, I'm like, I'm going to PlayStation 4, and I haven't looked back since. I didn't look a single step back that entire generation and went, oh, maybe they got... No, brain wasn't even thinking about it. So you're totally right on that one.
Yeah, most of the generation was really rough, and I think it wasn't until 2017 when they really started implementing, Game Pass and stressing the fact that you can share games digitally with people. Like, I save so much money by game sharing with my brother and Game Pass, and it's absolutely ridiculous. So, but that's besides the point. So what Xbox had to do was give people a reason to be like, hey, you need a Series S, even if you're a PlayStation guy. Grab the Series S, use it as your Game Pass machine. That's completely fine. Or just subscribe on your PC if you have a PC, or just subscribe and stream it to your devices, because we just announced that cloud is opening up everywhere and you're going to be able to play all our games on anything that has a browser. So they really just need people to subscribe to Game Pass. And do I think they were successful in that? Hell yes, I do. I think this was a phenomenal showcase. I gave it like an 8.5, 9 out of 10. I obviously, I think there was like one big major announcement missing, like one of those titles we're really looking for, like Hellblade 2 or something. But the pacing was dead on. It was game after game after game, very little talking, except for the Forza guys, but that was to illustrate the power of the Xbox.
Which is really gorgeous, by the way. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I was watching that.
Phenomenal.
I looked at that and went, oh god, my PC can't handle that. Don't make me have to spend money on an Xbox just for that.
Yeah, but I mean, it looks fantastic. But then, 27 of the 30 titles they showed are coming to Game Pass. And they weren't small titles. Everyone's always like, well, Game Pass is a lot of filler. Well, you look at these titles that they're throwing on there, 27, and I would say most of them good, like big titles. Like, not all of them. Obviously, they have the smaller titles like Among Us and that Elysian Chronicles, that JRPG, which I think looks fantastic.
Oh, Aiden Chronicle? Like the friggin' Suikoden Kickstarter? Oh my god.
That looks like, so they have those niche games that come into Game Pass that aren't going to appeal to everyone. But then they have the big heavy hitters like Back 4 Blood coming day one to Game Pass is a huge deal. I don't think people really get how big that is. That game, people are looking forward to it. That's going to be a big game this fall.
If there is anybody that actually thinks that Game Pass is hit or miss every time, you aren't looking at the list. This is coming from a Sony guy. Every time I see what the new list of is, there's at least one or two games that I go, that's sick that I don't have to pay money for that. Like, that's the thing. What Kevin said, where he said, look, all they want to do is get you to buy an Xbox. I don't think the conference did that. But to get me to subscribe to Game Pass, that is a much different conversation. The Series S, I don't know if I want to go that route still. But like with my PC, if I can figure out a way, if I can like sell an organ or two for a really good graphics card for my PC, I don't know, like that's a pretty sweet deal. Because I used it for a little bit when it was still in that $1 promotion they were doing. So like I got some pretty good games out of that. And if you're telling me that I don't have to worry about, as a PlayStation gamer, missing on Bethesda now, and all it's going to cost me is what? Like the same price that I'm paying for PlayStation every month? Yeah, I'm down. That's sick. I'm surprised. I was hoping they would actually announce that TV stick that was apparently rumored for a while, because I figured that'd be a great way for me to be able to play. But I guess I'm still waiting for that announcement if it's ever a thing.
Yeah, it's coming right before they had that debriefing with the media, and they confirmed that they're working on the stick. It's coming. Confirmed that they're going to have apps just for the smart TV. So if you don't want to buy it and you have good enough internet, then streaming is definitely an option. And I've seen a lot of backlash about that, being like, well, Xbox is devaluing their console. They don't care about making consoles anymore.
Who cares? We're not the business owners. We're the gamers.
Like, well, it's also completely the opposite. Like they want more people in the ecosystem. Consoles are always going to be the best way to play a game because it's native, it's downloaded on your console. Streaming is always going to have hiccups, or like your Wi-Fi may not always be perfectly smooth, even if you have great Wi-Fi. So local is always going to be better, but not everyone can afford that. Not everyone wants to afford it. Not everyone wants to buy two $500 boxes.
Yeah, it's like the PC gamer argument. No, you should be spending $1,500 just to slightly enjoy this medium.
No, and I think you're right. Like, talking that idea that, Xbox may not necessarily want to sell consoles. Like, and to be honest, I don't think any console manufacturer is actually making consoles for that's not where the money is in selling the consoles. The sales is where they make their money, the sales of the games. And if Microsoft can skip that and say, yeah, you want to start playing our games and you don't want to drop that $400, $500, there's a reason why consoles are loss leaders and why they don't make any profit on them. And it's just because they need to get them into your house. If Microsoft has figured out a way that we can get our games into your house without having to make you spend $400, that's a win for them. And so going back to the question is, like, I think Microsoft succeeded. I think what their goal was, I disagree with a little bit that they were there to sell Game Pass. I think Game Pass sells itself. I think what they needed to come out and do is say, we have games. And I think that was an issue that you talked about with the Xbox One, like last generation, is that there wasn't any games.
They needed to show that they could keep up with PlayStation.
PlayStation is known for its, hey, we've got games, we've got, albeit they're generally somewhat all in the same realm, but like they have games and exclusives, and Xbox really had nothing to show for it. And so what I think they need to come out with is, hey, we have games here that you can't get anywhere else. And I think they did that with Bethesda and a lot of the other ones. And then kind of putting it, by the way, if you don't have the console, you can still get it through Game Pass. And so for me, I haven't had an Xbox since the Xbox 360, and even that was barely touched. The last real Xbox that I was playing was the original one. And even I'm kind of looking at it now saying like, oh man, maybe I should get an Xbox even as just like a secondary console. I mean, the games don't all necessarily speak to me, but they don't have to. The idea that, Xbox has a lot of small games, like that's Netflix. Netflix has a ton of stuff. It's about the content. And I think for them to come out and say we have all these new games, some of them big, some of them small, I think really what they did is they ate Sony's lunch in that if I'm an indie developer now, I'm going to look at Game Pass a whole lot more than I'm going to look at PlayStation in terms of going there with my game, because I think it's a really hard sell for indies to kind of say, hey, give us $20, give us $30 for these games. Whereas if they can get a paycheck from Microsoft and they'll say, we can get it into everybody's hands for no additional cost, I think now it's going to be where a lot of, smaller games and indie developers are going to kind of say, I'm going to look towards Game Pass as my first stop. And I think Sony now has a situation where it's going to be hard for them to kind of get indies to come on board when they know they're going to have an uphill battle in terms of getting people to, pay an extra $20, $30 for their game. So I think... Yeah.
I was going to say, it honestly depends, because, we still hear stories back and forth on, like, developers being like, yeah, no, Sony is really easy to work for. There's things like that. It really just depends on what your experience ends up being and what you're looking to do. If you want to get to a lot of households right now, Game Pass is the way to go. I guess it really just depends on what you're trying to do. If you're just looking for an environment where you can be completely free, maybe Sony's where you go. But if you're just looking to get into a bunch of households, Game Pass is going to easily be that, especially if they start really ramping things up, like with a TV stick, with all the apps for smart TVs. Like, the more and more they do that. Because, like, I've seen people make the argument, it's like, oh, Microsoft's going to lose so much money on this. Even if that's true, who cares? If it really is a secret deal, don't tell them that, because then they'll take it away. Because if it's that good a deal to play Starfield, for example, or any of these games advertised in this show that you want to play, instead of paying $79.99 here in Canada, I think it's $69.99 down in the States still, whatever you have to pay, you can instead pay a monthly fee and play all of them if you're enough of a no-lifer like me that can do it. So, like, why would you not take that deal?
I don't know. I often preach. We talk about Game Pass all the time over on Project XTalk, and we're all fanboys over there for it.
Hard not to be, really.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You kind of have to be biased on an Xbox show. It'd be kind of weird.
Even if you didn't. Even if you're like, all right, Game Pass isn't for me. I don't have the time to play the giant catalog of games. I just want the games. Like, I just want the exclusives that Xbox hasn't had. They've started showing them. We have Starfield, we have Halo, Forza ending this year. We have, they have lots of third-party games really rounding out this year besides Halo and Forza. But then you get into 2022 where you have Redfall, the new Arcane game that long rumored. People thought it was a expansion for the next Elder Scrolls area. So that one's coming this summer. Then you have Starfield. And then you get into, maybe these games are next year. I think they're 2023, but like Hellblade, Fable, Perfect Dark, like the next few years, if Microsoft actually achieves their goal of getting a big release every quarter, it's going to compete on that exclusive front that they need to compete on.
And it's not even a big deal if they do, because it's not a big deal for us as Sony gamers, even if they do, because again, we're talking about actual good games being released to everybody. Like, I've seen that argument all the time, because I hate the console wars. If there's one thing I can say 1,000 times and still never get bored of saying it, I hate the console war. Because you should never want your competition to fail. That's what made the Xbox One so depressing to me. It's because I knew that Sony would have the opportunity now in the next generation to friggin' lax around. And some can argue that they have. I'm still not there. But it's also in the range of they better start ramping up soon, though, before they start getting lost in the shuffle in the way that Xbox did during the PS4. So it's in that way that's like, and it's the same with Nintendo. Like, we'll talk about Nintendo later, but Nintendo's the same way. It's like, look, I love Nintendo when they're nice to their customers, I should say. But, like, if you're a Nintendo gamer, there's nothing to play when you're waiting in between games. Like, PlayStation is sort of feeling that way now because there doesn't seem like anything's coming for a while. And I'm sure maybe because the rumor is July 8th is a date that they're setting up for theirs. So maybe we get an answer soon on what that looks like. But generally speaking, like, you're looking at Xbox right now and seeing not even necessarily the list of games that are coming, but the list of games that are going on Game Pass that are fresh, that are either older games that you maybe just didn't think of looking at because you didn't own a console. And here you go. You don't have to go to a store to buy it. You don't have to go and pay an extra $40 for it. Pay us this monthly fee. Go ham on it. Do whatever you want. And we'll see in another couple months when we got a nice new spread of fresh shit for you. It's like they killed it. Like, I didn't get my attention for most of it because most of what they said mostly doesn't click with me in the same way that, like Kevin said, Ubisoft stuff doesn't. Like, most of what was for me was Aiden Chronicle. Obviously, I'm a big JRPG guy. Forza looked gorgeous. 12 Minutes looked like a really fun indie game. I'm very curious about that. Yeah, also, I'll take anything with James McAvoy. That sounds like a riot.
Daisy Ridley. Ooh, she owns my heart.
Yeah.
And then, like, look, I still don't care much for Sea of Thieves, but that Pirates of the Caribbean thing looked awesome.
Yeah. That's what I said. We got Garrett on our show is a huge Sea of Thieves fan, and I was like, I don't even like this game, but this is a cool crossover. Like,
because it looks like they got all the voice actors in, which I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's what me wish Kingdom Hearts was, because they got almost everybody in the Kingdom Hearts 3 version of Pirates, but they didn't get Jack. It sounds like they got Jack. I don't know if it actually is Johnny Depp, but it sure as shit sounded like him.
They just got like one of those like little keys with all his just little voice clips on.
That would be funny. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm not gonna lie though, I was disappointed with some of the stuff that wasn't shown, like Fable you mentioned. I'm really sad I didn't get to see something else of Perfect Dark. I want that game to be the greatest thing ever because I'm still salty to this day that Zero sucked so bad. Because the N64 Perfect Dark is still, in my opinion, maybe quite possibly the best first-person shooter out that's ever been made. I love that game.
I just want to take a minute. As good as Forza looks, remember, that's the team that's going to make Fable. That's this.
Really? I didn't know that.
Out. Oh yeah. Playground's making Fable.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's good. It's gonna look incredible when it comes out.
They're using the Forza tech engine. So imagine that, but refined,
but not a driving game.
Not a driving game. Understanding the Series X development kit 2 years on. So
that's the other thing. I've seen people talk about like the current thing of like me being the Sony guy. I've seen people bitch about PlayStation right now because they're like, oh, why are they putting stuff on the PS4? Like, well, first of all, there's a pandemic. They kind of should get it to like 100 million consoles. But aside from that, like they're all complaining like how bad it's going to look. I'm like, guys, they always aren't going to look their best the first 2 years anyway because they haven't figured out the console yet. Like,
are you taking shots at me from last week? Because I was the one saying that from last week.
That was unintentional, but sure, I'll take any opportunity to give you shit for stuff. But no, like, it's going to be amazing in 3 to 4 years. And you're right, Fable's going to be exactly that once they have their hands a little bit more. They've dug into it a bit more. They've kind of understood it better. It's the same, like, everybody still talks to this day how amazing GTA 5 was on 360 and PS3. And it's like, yeah, that's what happens when you have, like, 10 years of working on a system to figure it out.
Yeah, so I, as Sony fans, you guys, you said you overall felt Xbox succeeded. Were there exclusive games Xbox showed you that really you're looking forward to? Redfall didn't do it for me. That game I don't really care about. I wanted something different from Arcane, but obviously Halo I'm super excited for, and that only got me more excited.
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been a Halo guy since like 2. I feel like it's one of those games that like I just kind of grew out of. So
yeah.
But like go to the exclusive stuff for Xbox, the answer honestly is no, because most of the stuff that I know of that I'm interested in, I looked up, most of them are coming to PlayStation. 12 Minutes within 3 to 6 months will be there. Stalker 2 will be there in 3 months, I'm hearing. Back 4 Blood is day 1. Even games like The Ascent will apparently be on PlayStation at some point. So it's more like a timed exclusive. That's like, I saw this post that did a good rundown of it. And if that's all true, like it seems like I'm not going to miss out on nearly as much. It's mostly Bethesda, but if I want that, Game Pass, that solves that problem anyway. So I think that's the beauty. Like I can shit talk Microsoft as much as I want, but at the end of the day, they're giving me an option to still enjoy their stuff without having to, like we said, fork over $500-$600 for them. So I can't complain. Like I said, the only thing I don't like about the show is I felt like ending with Redfall in a cinematic trailer felt like a downer for me, because whenever I hear one more thing, I expect big name that like a big sequel. Yeah, like actually, you know what? Great example. Here's the 3 things I want to hear from a one last thing, and we'll use Sony as the example for if they do like a July thing. So the highest priority is big name reveal. Doesn't have to be gameplay. So like, let's just say God of War, or not God of War Ragnarok. Let's say Uncharted 5 is the example. So like, that's what you end a show with. If you don't have something like that, you break out a new IP with gameplay. So like what Horizon was for 1 year with Sony, or what what was the one for X? Oh no, not Xbox. When Watch Dogs got revealed for the first time, like of course the game didn't turn out that well, but the initial trailer for that reveal was amazing. And then if you don't have that, that's when you break out the already previously announced game with a decent amount of gameplay just to show it off, like, say, a God of War Ragnarok. And the common denominator with all of these shows is they didn't do any of that. It was all either cinematic trailers for games we'd never seen, or just cinematic trailers of games we already knew existed, where it's like, yeah, we know. Like, everybody's taught, like, Elden Ring, as much as we're happy about, like, we all knew Elden Ring has been a thing for forever. We were just waiting for that first trailer. Redfall, cool, but I don't know what it is, and it's just a new IP. It's hard to be excited over a movie. I mean, it's a cool idea. Like with Ubisoft, it was Avatar. Again, like it's a cinematic trailer. What are you going to get from that? Square did Final Fantasy Origin, which was, we'll get to that. And then Nintendo ended with Breath of the Wild 2, which was a big deal, but it also, I don't think, showed enough. So I think the key with all of these shows is, I'll say again, is like, none of them closed well. And Microsoft, like, they could have ended the show so good because they did such a great job of getting you in. And I feel like Redfall, while not a bad decision to throw in there, I think if you were going to do the cinematic trailer for a game that we kind of aren't going to get any gameplay for, you could have just done Starfield and it would have done the exact same thing. So it's I don't know. I didn't feel like it like had that bang to cap it off.
For me, there was a couple games that kind of, as a Sony, player, I was like, obviously big one, Starfield. I'm like, damn it. Like, I love Bethesda open world games. And so that's kind of, for me, was one. Stalker 2 is another one that looks amazing. And I know it eventually will be coming to PS5, but yeah, I want it now. The one that we haven't really talked about that kind of, we don't know much about it either, but really appeals to me, was Contraband, which is the...
I wanted to see so much about that.
Right? Like, they're the guys that made Mad Max, like, and Just Cause. Like, they make really cool games, and like, to have it be like an open world, smuggling game, like, that sounds awesome. And so I don't know much about it, but just with rumors that, Xbox is looking at picking up Avalanche, and this will probably be an exclusive that I'm going to be like, damn, that kind of sucks for me. Like, I really want to play it.
I was really upset they didn't show anything for that, because I was like, oh, what is this? I was like, this feels like Far Cry. What the hell is this? And then they showed a new game. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then it just ended. I'm like, oh, that actually looked like it could have been cool.
Open world Payday.
That would be fun.
In the 70s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that, and then 12 Minutes was the other one for me. What about you? What were the ones that kind of stood out for you as an Xbox fan? What were the ones that you're like, glad we got that one?
Well, Starfield, I've mentioned. Halo was the big one. I do not like Halo 4, even though I played it. I liked Halo 5 more. Halo Infinite looks way better because it looks like it's going back to the roots of Halo. So I'm all in on Halo Infinite. Whether that disappoints me or not, we will find out probably in November. I know they didn't give a date, but I'm still going with it's November 15th to celebrate 20 years of Halo. The other ones that I saw, I mentioned Back 4 Blood, the Elysium, whatever that Elysium Chronicles.
Oh, Alien Chronicle, yeah.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. A Plague Tale Requiem. I think that one.
No. That game is going to screw me up. I'm not doing it.
A Plague Tale Innocence is one of my favorite games of last gen. It's gorgeous and it's absolutely amazing, and it's on Game Pass. So if anyone hasn't played it, please go play it.
Yeah.
This one's gonna be. I can't remember if they said it's a launch time exclusive, but it's launching day and date on Game Pass. So I'm there. That's one of my most anticipated titles now. I never expected a sequel, and I'm so happy I'm getting.
I am not down for a Sea of Rats. That is just going to completely screw with my imagination for the rest of my life. So.
It's amazing. There is. I'm just gonna say two words for you about the original. If you haven't played it, Rat Tornado.
Yeah, no. One of my best friends played that game and friggin' will die by the sword or die on the hill for that game. So I'm like, yeah. The second they showed that trailer with the Sea of Mice, I'm like, I don't think I can do that.
Yeah, that was my pop off moment. That was my get hype. Like, oh my god, like I was super pumped for that.
The only other thing I could think of is. It's such a little thing, but I love the fact that Slime Rancher's finally getting a sequel. Oh, that game is adorable. And Replace looked really cool. That weird, 3D pixel game. The aesthetic looked good, but I don't know how I feel about it yet.
Yeah. Shout out. If you haven't played Yakuza Like a Dragon, it's on Game Pass. Please go play it now.
I need to play that game so badly.
It was my game of the year last year. I will die. I will fight anyone. It was the best game of 2020.
I may legitimately get Game Pass just to get that game because I've been waiting for it to go on sale forever.
Literally in my top 10 games of all time now. I love that game so much, and I'm not a Yakuza guy. I tried playing the other ones. I do not like the.
I love them, and I had to tell every fan who was like, I can't believe they're getting away from that formula. I'm like, Judgment still exists.
Yeah,
and then on top of that, it's like literally. Any major Yakuza fan, look, they've made 7 games that have been amazing, plus Judgment, so technically 8. Give them one chance to show you what a JRPG in that formula looks like. And everything I saw about it went, this looks like the best game I'm going to play.
It's phenomenal. 65 hours. I'm missing one achievement, and it's because it's nonsense. And you have to beat the true final Millennium Tower, which basically requires you to get all your characters to level 99 and get all your class to level 99.
This is why I don't trophy collect, because it's dumb. It makes me do things I would never do.
It was just so heartbreaking when I got every achievement but that one.
It is the worst moment, though.
I'm not grinding for 70 more hours to do this. So, but yeah,
I want to move on. I want to start wrapping up and moving on to the next one. But I have one quick question. You kind of brought it up. We talked about it a couple weeks ago on our podcast, and we got a lot of flack for it.
No, I got a lot of flack for it.
We're a team. We take it together. Where do you think Halo's falling? So we were talking initially about the game might be in trouble and it's struggling. From what I saw, it looks like it's improved, but for me, it still doesn't look. I think it doesn't look as impressive, especially if it's going to be coming out later this year when other games are coming out. Like, where do you think that game's going to fall? Is that going to meet, exceed, or fall lower than our expectations of what we think it should be?
I guess it depends on where your expectations are. I think it's going to be much better than Halo 4 and Halo 5. And we have to remember, Halo 4 and Halo 5 on Metacritic, they're in the mid-80s. They're not considered bad games. They're considered good games.
It's just when you compare them to the first two, which everybody has it's like comparing any Zelda into Ocarina of Time right now, right?
Yeah.
So
where you look at the original trilogy and you have 98, 96, 98 or something. Yeah. I don't think it's going to hit those heights. I think that's a little unrealistic. I think games are judged harder now than they were back then.
That is not even that is a hot take that isn't a hot take.
Yeah. But I would say that this game scores high 80s. And if it's lucky, maybe hits 90 on Metacritic. But I think it's going to do what it needs to do for the Halo franchise. I think they really know how important this is to revitalize. The multiplayer looks amazing. I'm so in for that grappling hook. It fits right in with Halo. The story, I think, is really where it's going to live or die for some people. Graphically, I have no issue with it. I think it looks beautiful. I do think it's being held back by the Xbox One, but that's a whole different conversation.
That's the anti-Xbox One bias talking right there. I'm just going to say that.
I would love if this was a next-gen only game, but it's not, and I have to live with that. But I think it's going to be good, and I think it hits in November. I think it comes out a week after for Forza, but I don't think they wanted to blow up Forza's spotlight for some reason.
For sure. Where do you guys want to go next? Do you guys want to get the next big one and get Nintendo out of the way, and then just
let's talk about Chaos. I don't want to end on Chaos. Please don't make me end on Chaos.
All right, where do you guys want to go next?
Square Enix. Let's go.
All right.
You mean the Square Chaos Enix brought to you by I'm gonna get Chaos.
I'll end you.
Apparently, from what I've seen on online, apparently the demo actually isn't bad now that it's working. But apparently a lot of people are saying it's actually pretty fun, like it's Neo with a Final Fantasy coat of paint, to which I go, okay, that still sucks for me because I hate those games, but
yeah, I've heard the combat's fun, but it looks terrible.
I don't know what that aesthetic is.
It's like they took 3 different characters from 3 different time periods and this is supposed to be a prequel to Final Fantasy 1. I'm not in
which so many people asked for. Of all the Final Fantasy games people wanted to see some more story from, it was 1.
I'm not in for this game at all. I might try it on my PS5 if I feel like it, but I doubt it.
I don't.
I honestly don't.
I'm in this train where I am one step away from literally dropping Square Enix completely because they're treating my favorite franchise in history really poorly for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Maybe the 7 remake, which I'm waiting for a good price and integrate to come out, because I have it free since they put it on, but I don't want to play it and not get to play as Yuffie. That would make me really sad. So I'd rather wait. I'm also really annoyed that they didn't show anything about the Pixel remasters, because that was probably the coolest thing that they showed, and they didn't show anything.
Really, that was the coolest thing that you thought? For me, I thought Guardians of the Galaxy was the coolest thing.
Okay, sorry, the coolest thing, nostalgia kind of tops, but Guardians did look pretty fun.
Honestly, I think for me, Guardians of the Galaxy was probably the coolest game that I saw this week at E3. In terms of the games that I want to play, Forza looks amazing. Tiny Tina looks great. They had some other cool games, but that was the one where I'm like, yeah, I would buy this and I'd play this. And I think I know people are like, oh, it doesn't look like Star-Lord. No, shut up. You can't, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not the only iteration and interpretation that we have of these guys. And I think that it looks like a fun game. Like the RPG aspects, and I use that term loosely in terms of dialogue choices and how you play, I think are really neat. So like for me, Guardians of the Galaxy was the really cool thing. The only other thing that stood out for me, not being into like JRPG stuff like that, is Hitman Sniper. I don't know if I'm going to play it, but like, sorry, go ahead.
Isn't that a mobile game?
It is. But I just think it's interesting that like they're branching out, like when they're like, I think it was Agent 26, like there's more of them. And like, I don't know. It's not something I'm like dying to play, but I'm just like, that's cool. I played Hitman, the Sniper one. Was it Absolution? That it was like a pre-order bonus. You got to play that one, and I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. So like, if they have like a mobile game where I could just kind of like kill time and play sniper missions, that sounds awesome.
I mean, it was still better than Ubisoft. They didn't rail you down in movie trailers. I forgot to mention that during the Ubisoft thing. How stupid was it that they spent way too much time on animated features and movies that had nothing to do with any game franchise they had?
Yeah. No. Square Enix, I don't think it was a good conference either. Xbox is literally the only conference so far. I think that, like, up to this point, Sunday evening, I think Xbox is really the only one in E3, not counting Summer Game Fest, that had a good conference. Square Enix, I don't think was a good conference. They had a lot of weird choices. They had a lot of games that did not look good, like the Final Fantasy Origin and the, what's it called, Stranger in Paradise? Dumb name. Stupid name.
Yeah, Square's not the best with names, still.
And then Babylon's Fall, or what is that what it's
called?
It looked
horrible.
Horrible.
It looked boring.
Horrible. And I like Platinum as a developer. I like Astral Chain. I think that's a completely underrated game on the Switch. I do not. This game looks absolutely dreadful. And the fact that they want to be a live service game, it's gonna bomb so hard.
Did they not learn from Avengers?
Apparently not, because they barely talked about Avengers, which I'm thankful for. I don't need to see more Avengers. I'm over hearing about this game. I wish it would go away. But Guardians was the standout of the show, if you want to call it that. I do think it has promise. I think it could be a good 7 out of 10 title. I don't think it's going to blow anyone away, but I think it does look fun. I think it looks a little janky in the combat at points. I think it needs a little touch up there. But it's not something I'm like, wow, I'm not going to play that. It's something like, okay, I might play that. Like that looks pretty good.
Yeah, no, when I watched that trailer, I was more just happy because it was finally like what felt like an E3 conference, like showing of a game. It showed you the cinematic stuff. It showed you some gameplay. Then they went in depth, showed you some cutscenes and stuff, showed you all its mechanics. I love the fact that it's trying this weird, like, Life is Strange, Mass Effect, like, dialogue choicing thing. I like that. So it makes you feel a little bit involved. And I'm actually glad that they stuck to Star-Lord in a single-player format, because it means now that they can focus on one thing, because Avengers is a mess when you have too much going on. And the second that you try to make it, like, multiplayer or co-op, it also gets messy. That way, I love that they decide, okay, single-player, linear, just go down, play this, and be done with it. We're not going to throw anything weird at you until everybody's bought the game and reviewed it well, and then we'll throw all the DLC in it, because that's what every company does. But as it stands, like, I felt everything they did right. Other than the fact that it does look like a game that's not being made by, like, the top developer. It's being made by, like, like somebody on the side that's going to get a chance to kind of do some, fun stuff, take a few risks here, which I'm okay with, because if it's Guardians of the Galaxy, that's fine. It's why I'm still mad about Avengers. That should have been a much more polished game, and it wasn't. And it's pretty sad when it looks like a lesser developer is doing Guardians, and I feel much more positive about that than I do with what should have been literally a layup. All you had to do is make a game about playing as Captain America fighting stuff, and you win. You win. And they couldn't do it. So with Guardians, I feel a little more confident, because they at least look like they got the vibe of Guardians right, which is more than what you need. Like, the gameplay could be kind of jank and still be fine if the story and the dialogue is great. So I think they can get away with that here. Whereas Avengers, you really should have, thought a little harder about it instead of getting greedy and thinking you just need to do a bunch of season passes.
Yeah, I think for me, like, I'm not trying to advocate that Guardians of the Galaxy is the best game that was there. I feel like this.
I mean, in that conference, it was.
The bar is so low this year that I was just like, hey, this is actually kind of impressive. And like, I think when I saw it first, I'm like, oh crap, Guardians of the Galaxy, this is going to be like another live service, play with your friends, 4-player co-op. And they're like, hey, it's a single player story. I'm like, wow.
That woke me up.
I'm in.
You have my attention.
Mm-hmm.
So, no.
Anything else on Square Enix before we move on?
No. The fact that they decided that it was better to literally show us 5 seconds of a tease that they were going to remaster a bunch of old nostalgia and then show us what, quite frankly, is a massive slap in my face when I haven't loved a Final Fantasy in 20 years. They didn't even show 16, which is really weird. Really weird.
Final Fantasy in 20 years?
I have 10 is the last one that I've truly liked. Like, I am tolerant of 12 and 15. 14 I don't count because it's online. It's not really what I'm talking about. I will go to the grave cursing 13 for the rest of my life. So
he's got strong opinions.
No. Yeah. About Final Fantasy? No, I've never made that apparent.
Let's move on to Capcom. Capcom, do we just pass? That was terrible.
I didn't even realize. I forgot what Capcom even did.
Nothing.
Should we talk about the Take-Two Zoom call conference?
Go for it.
No, that's all I need to say.
Exactly.
So many stupid choices.
I feel like there were so many conferences that just failed. So,
I didn't think that there could have been worse than Square Enix infamous in a theater at a pedestal feeling like a business meeting press conference, and then Take-Two was like, hold my beer.
Yeah. Is there anyone that we're missing before we move on to the big ones? Like, we can go to Nintendo unless you guys have any ones. Like, I felt they were all really disappointing for the most part.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the last big meat and potatoes, Nintendo. Guys, what did Nintendo have to come in and accomplish? What was their goal for E3, and did they do it? Adam, I'll let you go first this time.
Okay, well, their goal was to get me to buy a Switch, in which case I went no, because I know all these games are not going to be below $40 ever, so... They didn't do that, but if they wanted to get my attention, there was some pretty cool stuff. I mean, Metroid Dread, which, by the way, I didn't know until today, was a rumored game for a decade plus on the DS, which I thought was really neat. I love the fact that they're bringing Super Monkey Ball back. I friggin' adored those games growing up. And yeah, there's some cool stuff, obviously Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild 2, but I left that conference going, I don't need you. I want to play some of your stuff, but I don't need you. And because you seem to have this complete, unreasonable attitude towards your pricing, I can't get behind that stuff. I want to buy a Switch, but I know if I want to play any of the games I want to play, it's I'm paying double the Switch just to get 4 really good games. Because I want, say, Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Fire Emblem, and I don't know, let's say Astral Chain is the odd fourth. It's going to cost me an arm and a leg just to get into that. That's why Game Pass is so much more interesting to me, because there's a lot of games that I could want to play there, and it's not going to friggin' cost me another console plus just to get to it. So, if their job was to get me to buy it, they didn't. But if they want to get me interested in some of their games, they did. There's always games I'm interested in.
Kevin, what about yourself? What did Nintendo have to come in and do, and did they do it?
Nintendo had to give me a reason to turn my Switch on, because I think the last time they actually gave me a reason to give a shit about my Nintendo Switch was January 2020, when I bought Trials of Mana, the remake, which was a lot of fun. But that was just a small, if you're not into weird, small Japanese role-playing games, then that's not they gave me literally nothing last year. They've given me literally nothing this year. I just don't. I bought Pokemon Snap, but that was from nostalgia, and I sold it after 3 weeks because I was done with it. But
I was hoping for some more from Project Triangle Strategy, or whatever the actual name of that thing was going to be.
Yeah. So they had to give me a reason to care about their ecosystem right now, and because my Switch since last year has primarily been a Super Smash Brothers Ultimate machine, because but that's just because I love Smash. I'm in the competitive scene. I go to locals, I compete in tournaments. So opening with the Smash reveal is fine, but the fact that it's Kazuya from Tekken does not fill me with excitement.
Did you believe the rumor that Master Chief is going to be that reveal? Because I'm come on, guys.
No, because it came from Vergaben, who thinks he's a Smash leaker, but he constantly gets everything wrong. And then he'll occasionally get one or two things right, but
he should just say it's a Fire Emblem character every single time, and he's got like a 50-50 chance, you know?
I would have preferred a Fire Emblem character, to be honest with you. I'm not a Tekken guy. I played it on the PlayStation back in the day. Kazuya doesn't get me excited, and it actually gets me depressed because Tekken is a Bandai Namco franchise, which means I'm not going to get my Tales of rep. I really wanted Lloyd Irving or someone. I wanted them in the game because I felt that's a better representation. And we hadn't seen Lloyd's Mii costume come back. Every other Mii costume has come back as DLC this game from Smash 4 and before. And the fact that they brought Hayachi's Tekken Mii costume back, I was like, all right, Tekken's off the board. We're not getting a Tekken character. Like, we still got a chance. So I was massively disappointed. He looks fine. Like, he's another freaking fighting game character that has probably gonna have auto turnaround and command inputs that I'm gonna try to play and then be like, this is why I don't play fighting games, and put that down immediately. But other than that,
I was gonna say, as an aside though, like what, like, because we were talking about Smash, like what's your big, like, what ones do you want in there so badly? Like, what character do you wish they could throw in there?
So Banjo-Kazooie was my number one pick, and he got in. So right now, I wanted Crash Bandicoot and Lloyd Irving.
Yep,
that would be cool.
Would be good.
Those are my two big ones.
I'm still put off by this day that they got Joker from Persona in there. Now I'm just sitting here being like, okay, just get Sora from Kingdom Hearts in, and I basically can't ask you for more.
They got Joker, and he's the best character in the game.
I love that game. Oh, man. I was actually really sad during the PC Gaming Show because they revealed Persona 4 Golden for PC last year. I thought, man, this would be a great time to pop out Persona 5 Royal for PC users.
Persona 4 Golden. I bought it last year, so the day they revealed it. I jumped on my computer, and then I played it for like 100-something hours. I was staying up till like 2 a.m.
That's why I'm mad at Final Fantasy, because Persona and Trails has shown me, oh, by the way, JRPGs can still be good in the old traditional format. Square.
Oh, yes, they can. Yes, again. But moving away from Smash, I thought the conference was massively disappointing. There was literally nothing here for me. I don't care about. Most of it is like shovelware or ports of older games. Why would I play Doom Eternal on my Switch? I'm going to play the Series X version on my Series X when it gets the upgrade. Like,
if you only own a Switch, sure, it's cool. But if you're any other gamer, which is probably 95% of people who own a Switch,
I get Switch is for exclusives. Switch is for Nintendo exclusive. That's really what it's there for. But their exclusives have been garbage lately. Animal Crossing is a stupid game. Like, I was much more mean to it when I talked about it a few weeks ago. Animal Crossing's dumb. Mario Golf is dumb. I don't want to play Mario Strikers. Yeah, sure. I'll play Mario Strikers all day. Mario Golf, no, get out of here. The new Mario Party doesn't do anything for me. Like, I
already hate my friends enough. Don't give me extra reasons.
I can't. I bought Super Mario Party, and then they didn't have online, and I was like, well, this was a waste. This was a waste of my life. And then
don't worry, they'll put more maps on that level. Just wait. They'll add DLC for it. There has to be. It's so bare bones. It can't have just this be the plan.
And Metroid is cool if you like Metroid. I like Metroid Prime to an extent. I'm not a huge fan. I'm not one of those people like, where's Metroid 4? Like Metroid Prime 4. So and I'm not a 2D guy. I'm not a 2D side-scrolling guy. So this Metroid doesn't do anything for me. And then Skyward Sword, get out of here. It's a port of a garbage game. Like, it's not good. It's not a good
when you think about the amount of stuff they left off the table, it is insane. And that's not even counting stuff that they might be working on that we don't know about. Like, there could be a Donkey Kong game they're working on that we still haven't heard about. There are 3 Pokemon games rumored to be in development that none of them showed up. Splatoon 3 didn't show up. Bayonetta 3 rumored didn't show up. There's even a Detective Pikachu game rumored, and that hadn't shown up.
This is where I disagree with you guys. Like, I don't think the conference was amazing. Like, at first I thought it was great, but like now that I've had some time to think about it, like, it's hit or miss. I think what they did, like, for me, what I think Nintendo needed to do is Nintendo has a catalog of amazing IP. And I feel we haven't seen a lot of it lately. And so it's always been sort of, hey, here's Bayonetta, here's Pokemon. It's always been those same IP. And I think for them, it was really cool that they came out and they showed us things like Advance Wars, doing a more 2D Metroid. Like, they're not games that, like, I'm actually really excited about Advance Wars. Like, I'm really excited to try that one. But like, the problem is with Nintendo is that the game, like, it's going to depend on where these games fall in price. And I've heard that Metroid is going to be a full-priced Nintendo game, and I don't think that's worth it. So I think
if that's true, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so I think what Nintendo, like, it's cool that Nintendo is dipping back into some of its older IP. It sucks that a lot of it is just ports from older consoles. I feel like what we need to do is we need to start seeing them make new games for the Switch, designed for the Switch, and not just, hey, we're taking this from the, Game Boy, 3DS or whatever. So like, I think it's cool that they're going into some of their older games and their catalogs and revamping those, but I do want to see them like kind of build some original content. And so I think it's refreshing that we didn't see the same thing over and over, but it wasn't enough to push the needle for me.
Well, your goal is to be a console that isn't a turn it on once in a year thing, and there's still that. Like, I don't feel like there's ever a reason post, like, once you get the big game, like whatever that is, whether it's like Breath of the Wild 2, Skyward Sword HD, if you haven't played the original, I mean, if you're looking for a nostalgia thing, I guess that's something, but like, what are you turning that console on for now? You're going back and maybe, playing some of the old games like on their monthly subscription thing at best? Like, that's not a good sign.
What I thought they did really well, and I would counter this, is that I think they were the one conference that had the most games where they had live dates that were probably within the next 6 months or so. And I think that's something to commend them for. And so I think that's like, is there a reason to turn on the Switch? I think yes, because they have a bunch of games. The question is that, are they of value? And that's a huge question. So I think they need to be commended at the fact that they have release dates that are soon. But
is there a hype generated on them? Most of them, no.
Yeah. Like, I think Advance Wars is cool. Metroid's cool. I like Mario Golf, and I think that's an awesome game. But once again, it's that premium price, and I don't know if...
Yeah, I'm like, look, I love Mario Golf like anybody else, but it ain't... I don't $80 love it.
Exactly, right?
That's crazy. Yeah, you guys, especially up in Canada, like, Nintendo Switch games here are $60. If you go to Walmart, you can usually get them for $50. So it's a lot cheaper for us, and they retain their value. So you can, if you trade them in or even sell them secondhand, you can make back most of that money. Like that's how I switch. I buy physical copies of Switch. I'm all digital for everything else, because especially PlayStation games, they do not hold value. They drop in price so quickly. So I'm digital for those because it's not worth my time and effort. Switch is definitely worth my time and effort to resell and get money back and keep reinvesting into that. I do hear what you're saying about them having release dates, and that's great, especially in a pandemic world where everyone has struggled. So they have games coming out. Are they games that I want to play? No, they are not. That is my big issue. And they haven't given me something to play in so long that I'm really losing faith in Nintendo. Like, you have so many IPs that I like. What are you doing with them? Where are the ones that people are waiting for? The best thing at this conference, in my opinion, was Shin Megami Tensei 5. And that is just because I like Persona, and seeing the combat, I was like, okay, from a combat perspective, from the fusing, like, it's Persona. Like, if I played this, I think I would enjoy the combat. I don't know if I would enjoy the story and the missing Persona elements, like relationships and all that, because that's kind of what I play those JRPGs for. But that's what the best thing was. But everyone's waiting for the Switch Pro, and I don't know if you guys noticed, a lot of these frame rates did not look good. If you've ever played Hyrule Warriors, that thing chugs down into the 20s, and if you're playing co-op, be prepared for 15 frames a second at points. Yeah. The Switch is not up to par, even by last gen standards. And I want to be like, I want a Switch Pro, and then I'll buy a Switch Pro, but like, what the hell am I going to play on my Switch Pro? You're not giving me anything.
Yeah. My Switch is dead, and I have no intention of charging it, so...
It's honestly the thing that I said from the very beginning with Nintendo. It's like, look, I want this to succeed. Like I said earlier with the console war stuff, I want all three companies to succeed. I even wanted Stadia to succeed, although I kind of was secretly hoping they didn't at the same time, but that's a different conversation. But like, I wanted the Switch to succeed because how awesome would it be to have a console filled to the brim with video games and you can take it on the road with you? I wish I could do that with my PlayStation. I know I can by like streaming it and stuff, but like I'd rather have something that in physical form I can carry with me and I know I'm not going to have to worry about lag or frame rate issues or anything like that. And not only does the Switch not have a library that is consistent, which was the biggest worry that I had about this console, but it clearly barely runs most of the games it has anyway. So not only am I getting a product that doesn't have a lot to play on it, most of them aren't even that functional. So it's like, why am I going with you again? Like, I want to, but like, I'm doing it for 3 games, and then what am I doing with this console?
It's a shame because I genuinely think that 2017 to 2019 for the Switch is phenomenal.
It looked really promising, yeah.
The Fire Emblem is, I put 600 hours into it. I played like 6. It's absolutely phenomenal.
It's so bad for me. Game. I'm praying for it to come outside of Switch. I want that on PC so badly just because I don't want to spend extra money to play it.
Yeah, it was my first Fire Emblem game, and I absolutely love it. I'm going to play whatever Fire Emblem they put out from now on. Astral Chain, like I said, hidden gem. Luigi's Mansion 3, great game. Yeah, it was good. It was a good game.
It was repetitive and it got boring.
I didn't feel that way. I blew through that in 15 hours. I thought it was great. Smash is amazing. If you like Smash Brothers, I mean, it's the best Smash Brothers. Is objectively better than the last 2. Like 4 is garbage. Brawl is garbage. Melee, if you're a competitive person, I can hear an argument for you. But
I mean, even if you think it's not the greatest Smash game, who even cares? Like, there's so much variety in that game now with the roster. Like, there's something for everybody in that game.
But
unless you're a Tails fan, then there's nothing.
But like, even if Nintendo, because I fell off Nintendo at the Wii. Like, I got a Wii, I was completely unimpressed. And they lost me for the most of the Wii and then all of the Wii U. I didn't know the Wii U was a separate console for the longest time. I thought it was just like a little handheld for the Wii. I was like, wow, they're really dragging this Wii's life out. But I would love them to even put their put a virtual library. Let me play the old games. Stop reselling them. Stop this Skyward Sword. Stop doing what you did with the Mario collection, which was god awful. Like, you have the audacity and people buy them and it's ridiculous to me, but you can't criticize Nintendo. God forbid.
It is one of the weirdest things in gaming that I will never understand. Like, Nintendo makes so many mistakes. I also, by the way, fuck them for not letting Twitch streamers co-stream that direct. That's bullshit. That is Bush League stuff. That's Bush League stuff from a company that still doesn't get it. And and that's where I'm like, they wonder why so many people don't like them, and yet that fan base, case in point, will defend everything they do. Even though that it's so clear with the fact that their library is always poor, the fact that their console alone doesn't even run all that well, and the fact that they gouge them for every dollar that they can squeeze out of them, and they're still willing to give them everything. And since I got you here and we're talking about Switch, we talked about this last week with like a wish list of things that I wanted to see at E3. What do you think about if Nintendo finally did what every other console is doing right now and offering like a monthly freebies? Like, not the virtual console stuff, like literally popping a couple of freebies in every month to at least give people like something possibly to take a stab at when it's so dead, because it feels like it would be a smart idea. It doesn't have to be like Breath of the Wild or Odyssey, but it can always be like a couple of games that maybe people wouldn't give a shot, so at least it gives them maybe a reason to check out the Switch and turn it on.
I don't think anything like that would ever happen unless you see a big increase in price for Nintendo Online, because
like if they charge like let's say like Game Pass, or not Game Pass, Live Gold, and say PlayStation Plus would be, for example.
Yeah, which would be a crazy price tag, because it's $20 a year for one person or $35 for family. Meanwhile, it's 10 a month for PS Plus and Gold. Yeah. So there's something like that. So it would be a crazy increase, and I just don't think Nintendo. I don't really think that's their.
Well, they wouldn't want to do it. But if they were to do it, and let's say first month they pop out Breath of the Wild on you, because most of the people who already own a console have it, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. But they get people to buy a console just to get it for like a cheaper price. I think you get your foot in the door, but I don't know what it is with Nintendo specifically, because some Japanese companies are a lot better than they used to be, but like Nintendo just seems to be that company that just refuses to take their heels out of the ground they've dug so deep into.
Yeah, I also think it wouldn't really be feasible with this current Switch because it's 32 gigabytes of hard drive space. So
that is also true.
What am I going to do with after 2 months? My hard drive's full of digital games. Like, it was ridiculous. So,
all right, so we're waiting for the Switch 1 terabyte SSD update along with PlayStation now.
Yeah. Yeah, so Nintendo was an average conference for me. I don't think they hit it out of the park. Is it as bad as I personally think? Probably not. It's probably somewhere in between there. So I'd say it's an average conference. It's
I think
was it better than Ubisoft? Yes, and that's all that matters.
Yes.
For Nintendo, this is one of the better Nintendo conferences we've had. It's one of the better ones that we've had in this E3, but it's not one of the best conferences that we've ever seen. And so, I think that about wraps that one up.
I'm willing to say that this is probably one of the least memorable E3s I've ever watched. I don't feel like there was a moment. Like everybody thinks of the moment. There wasn't even a Keanu Reeves "you're breathtaking" moment in this thing. It makes me wonder if there really is something missing with there not being a crowd.
Yeah. And we can talk about that in a second, but like let's circle this back. Was Sony right to not come to E3?
Yes.
Kevin, as an Xbox guy, where do you fall on that?
Yes. I like my PlayStation 5 is actually my first PlayStation. I know.
Welcome.
I was like, I'm gonna get both this generation. I'm gonna see what. Played God of War, absolutely loved it. Amazing game, masterpiece. Persona 5 Royal, platinumed it, masterpiece. So some of their exclusives I'm not that big on. The Last of Us doesn't really appeal to me, and I know that Horizon I did not
I
like
have a brother. I have a brother.
I know you have a statue.
I've been deceived.
I do not like Horizon Zero Dawn. I like Aloy. Aloy is fantastic. I definitely have a crush on Aloy. I know that might be a little bit like I like Aloy a lot. The story is bad. The story's not good. The combat is bad. The combat is really the stealth elements. I wish they had leaned in to make this a stealth game. The stealth.
I like the combat of fighting those dinosaurs. But what I'm actually getting offended by is the Last of Us because
I'm willing to accept this Horizon hatred if it means we get to agree on Last of Us sucking. I'm down for that. I can take that.
No. I don't think The Last of Us 1 from a story-wise sucks. Story is fine. Gameplay is terrible. It's not a good game.
I hate the gameplay.
I will agree that the combat is not amazing, but like it's serviceable, but it's made up for that story.
I felt more comfortable playing.
Last of Us 1 is a great story with okay gameplay, and Last of Us Part 2 is a story with amazing gameplay.
I watched my brother play because he had a PlayStation 4. So I watched him play The Last of Us Part 2. He loved the first half of The Last of Us Part 2. And then
I can't imagine what part happens in that game that he didn't like.
He went on about 10 hours too long for him and didn't give him the satisfying feeling that he wanted.
Fair enough.
But yeah.
So back to Sony coming to E3 or not?
No, they don't. They didn't need to be here. There's not enough. The Horizon state of play before this was perfectly serviceable, even for someone that isn't going to get it. It looked gorgeous. Everyone should be excited for it because I think it's going to be a great game. Whether they hit it in 2021 remains to be seen. But
I get the feeling that they don't have nearly enough for a big conference anyway, so it's probably best they do their own thing.
I don't think they need to be here. If they give us a state of play in July, like even if it's 30 minutes, show us Horizon, give us a release date, maybe some God of War. If you want to like show a little bit, I wouldn't show too much because I don't think that game's coming till late 2022.
Yeah, I think that's holiday season. Yeah, next year too.
Yeah, so show us maybe just a little bit, and then just fill it in with your smaller titles. The indie games that you have, the third party exclusives that you're contracting because you love doing that. So I think that's what they go with.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with let's assume we're doing one in July, I think because so many of their major developers, we're talking the big boys, I think so many of their stuff is 2 years out. So I don't know if there's nearly enough to warrant like what we consider to be a big E3 conference now. Now, granted, this doesn't matter because it's a digital-only event, so it's not like they took up a lot of stage time and had like 1,000 people sitting in a room to watch 5 games and then a bunch of indie things that, let's be honest, like as much as we all like indie games, the average gamer that's watching these things normally don't care. So like we love all these games and we'll talk about them, but like most of these people aren't buying.
They're filler in that like it's those are the breadsticks that they bring you to the table. It's not, you're not going there for that meal, but you enjoy it in between your courses.
Sometimes there's some damn good breadsticks.
Oh, breadsticks can be amazing, but it's not what you go to the restaurant for.
Yeah, you want a good meaty steak.
Exactly.
But like,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Adam.
just to finish it off. Like, look, I think that they'll have some pretty cool stuff to show us whenever it is that they show us what that is. And not to mention, there's a few infinite or not a few infinite. That's a completely redundant sentence right there. There are a few possibilities they could come up with that we still don't even know about. Like, there's obviously, we saw the rumor mill going around. They have like 30 games in production, so there could be some stuff. Not to mention, as we saw at Summer Game Fest, there's that new developer they got from some of the, I think it was the Infinity War guys, Deviation Games.
Yeah.
So there could be something, because apparently whatever they've been working on is at least a year in development, so they could have something to say at least. So there is a possibility of a bunch of stuff. And they could just say, they could blow up Bethesda and be like, hey, Uncharted 5's coming, and not show you anything. They don't have to. It's a name. But like, in terms of a meaty show, I think the same, like whenever that happens, I think I'm going to say the same things as I've said about most of these conferences, where you could have done this in less time and gotten your point across faster and not waste so much time in us like hyping ourselves up for what ended up being like a lot of cinematic trailers, which look, sometimes you got to do that because obviously, as Kevin said earlier, it's a bitch to make these things in gameplay. But either way, like if you got something to show, either show it or quickly get it through. Like I don't need to have a 5-minute movie about how amazing this game that might not be any good is. So
yeah.
I hope that if Sony does something, like you said, it's 30 minutes and just be quick with it, get the trailers done, and be out. Don't waste my time. I just want to know what's coming in the next 12 to 24 months, and I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I'm somewhat in agreement with you. I think, did Sony need to be at E3? No. I do think that Sony needs an E3 level conference at some point soon. I feel like PlayStation has been doing these small state of plays, and they're great, but they're small little, breadcrumb trails. And I don't know why I'm on a bread little sort of metaphor right now, but like they're doing these small little bite-sized things, and
this guy's getting toast after the show.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry. But anyways, it's one of those situations where we're getting small little bits, and I want to have a big conference. I want something to get excited about, and I feel like Xbox, we've been hearing a lot of them in the news and what they're doing well, and how they're knocking it out of the park. And I thought they did a pretty good conference. Whereas PlayStation, like they had that one video where they did a bunch of indies, they showed Horizon, they did a teaser for Ragnarok, and then everything's been quiet. We had one 20-minute state of play for Ratchet and Clank. We had one 20-minute, state of play for Horizon. And it's like, they're good, but they don't get me hyped in that sense. And so I think Sony needs to come out with an E3 presentation, not necessarily at E3. What I would love to see is like a PlayStation experience come back where it's, hey, we are going to do a conference with all of you guys here in December. We're going to do all the games. We're going to like show what's coming. I think they need to do something big, because right now it feels like it's big gaps between what announcements and games coming out. And like, I feel like there's a bit of a drought that they need to kind of say, here's our roadmap for the PlayStation for the next 2 years. And that's where I think they need to go.
Yeah, they don't need to slap Xbox aside and be like, no, we're back and here comes all the stuff. They just need to be like, hey guys, no, don't worry. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff too. Don't worry. Like, just ease the concerns of their customer base and be fine with it. Because like, I've seen so many people say that, like, again, with the PS4 and PS5 debate, it's like, guys, we haven't had so many consoles developed. We've still gotten more consoles shipped than I think was last time for PlayStation 4. I'm assuming Xbox's numbers are similar, where they've shipped more in the first, like, say, couple of months than they did for Xbox One. But like, we're still in this era where like so many people either can't afford a new console because they haven't been working, or they haven't been able to get one because literally half of all this stock has been in scalpers' hands. So, it's at that point where it's like, hey, like, it's fine. Like, you can wait for the big exclusive bangers on like the next gen hardware to come out in another year or so. But like, we still need to be reminded that, hey, like, we're still active. Like, that's all I think all the people really need. Just the reminder that there's still a bunch going on. Just not necessarily like, hey, here, let's knock the door down and completely reinvigorate the entire generation again. I don't think that's necessary. Now, don't get me wrong. If it happens, I'll mark the fuck out. But that's different.
Fair enough. So I think we're all kind of in agreement. This was a little bit of a lackluster E3. My question to you is, what is the health and the future of E3? Do you think this was just a one-off, making the best of what we could do with a pandemic, or are we seeing the dying throes of E3?
I would say yes, but I don't think we'll have an answer until we have one with people again.
Sorry, you're saying yes to what question?
If it's dying. I don't know if I have a correct answer for that until I've seen one more E3 with people in the crowd.
Yeah, last summer I was like, wow, we really need E3. This was not good. The gaming, it all needs to be condensed and organized. And now this year I'm like, maybe we don't need E3. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I got that one wrong, because this was a lot of this was a waste of time and didn't need to happen. I would give it at least till next year when it's in person. If they come out with a similar level of performance as this year, then I don't think it's going to last much longer.
Oh yeah, it's done.
This year, honestly, it will not continue if it's like this every year.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they have probably one more shot to get it done, and I think E3 as a company needs to become a lot tighter and a lot more scrutinous in terms of what are you actually bringing to the table, and just by you can't just give it to people so that you can say so and so is presenting. It's not just about quantity of who's presenting, but it's a quality as well. And I think this one kind of failed. What I'd like to see E3 and what I think E3 should do is, I think E3 as a proper press conference is kind of done. And I think what E3 needs to look at doing is becoming more of a convention like Comic-Con. And so I was,
if they can make it more like a big industry PAX, like that could possibly work in their favor.
No, I think open it up to the general pop like they did in 2019. You bring everyone in, have developers come in and say, hey, this is an opportunity to get games into people's hands, have booths, have all that kind of stuff, have vendors, make it a Comic-Con for gamers. And then, you're going to have people there. That's where your revenue becomes, and you start making it more affordable and more worthwhile for developers to come in and sell their games. You have indie developers there who could be, letting people do hands-on, demos. Bigger developers can be in there, kind of showing trailers and even doing press conferences and then filling it with people there. I don't think it needs to be this exclusive press sort of event anymore. I think the idea of just being able to get the press's attention is easy enough that you don't need to have a congregation conference.
So you want to go back to what it was in the early 2000s, where it was a fan festival.
Exactly, right? Like, I feel like gaming has become big enough that we could do that. And
I mean, they might have no other choice.
Yeah. So I think that gatekeeping and like, this is a press event and we'll let you come in if you want, but like, I think they need to actually make it focused towards gaming. The industry's big enough that like, it's always kind of been in this weird spot where we've never really had our own thing. It's always been kind of like attached to PAX or it's been attached to Comic-Con, but we've never had our own gaming convention. And I feel like this is kind of where we're getting at. Do tournaments, do all that kind of thing. Like, this is the event for gamers, and
you're gonna get a lot better crowd reactions, both good and bad, I should say, if you have like actual gamers in the crowd and not the clapathon plants that we see every year.
Yeah, like we know these people, we have to clap. This is their, we're friends with them.
Exactly.
You put Keanu Reeves out on a stage with let's say 2,500 like actual gamers. Oh man.
Keanu Reeves is a gem. That man deserves a clap. So
love him.
I would awesome. Love for that. I would love to have like a pro wrestling level, we're not worthy, and just freaking going nuts, and that would be moments. That would be an E3 moment right there. The crowd would dictate it.
Becomes more entertaining for the people at home to watch those kind of like reactions and that experience. So
now I don't know how the industry would take that, because if they have a really bad one, I don't know if they want to hear boos in the crowd, because they would let them have it.
Well, you guys don't have phones?
Like, can you imagine Square revealing Strangers in Paradise or whatever the fuck that stupid game is, and having literal like 2,000 people in an audience reacting live to that thing? Oh boy, I would pay for that.
But then you get to the point where you can, like, if you are in a situation where if there's a ton of events going on, that you may not have just people going for it. Like, if I'm not a Square Enix person, I'm not going to go to the Square Enix conference.
Oh, but Square Enix fans would be there and they would shit on them.
You know what I mean. I mean.
Now, Nintendo would always be happy because they all clap for everything. So
yeah.
But any more pot shots we want to take at people?
Yeah, we're burning bridges. So, any sort of closing thoughts on E3, what we saw, games, any sort of final wrap-ups before we shut her down?
No,
I feel like we've gone pretty extensive through it.
I'm just sad that so much could have been. Like I said last week, I'm like, this has the potential of being a great show for everybody because it's our first post-pandemic E3, so there could be a bunch of games coming down the line that makes everybody go, oh my god, it's about to get better. And then E3 happened, I went, okay, so we got next year.
You jinxed us, Adam. It's your fault.
Fine, I'll take the blame again.
I think there are enough games to make me excited for the rest of the year and into next year and through scattered throughout next year that I already know about. So in that sense, I'm good. I'm happy, but it could have been so much more.
Yeah, it could have been so much more.
That's what's killing me.
I was waiting for that just barrage of just, oh my god, that's so cool. Oh, look at this thing, that's so cool. And instead I went, all right, that's fine. Yeah, that was cool, but where was this? Or why don't we get this? Or where was that big reveal? I don't feel like I got that classic, holy shit, that's a thing. That didn't happen this year.
Also, Xbox, give me Banjo 3. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, get Rare to actually make something that we like. I'm still so salty that they're like, hey, let's give Rare Connect.
We got the Star Wars game.
I'm not Han Solo. I'm not Han Solo. I'm not Han Solo.
Let's leave it there, guys. Fantastic. All right, guys.
We're ending on depression. Good lord.
We're ending on Han Solo, and that's where I think we're going to end it. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a longer episode than usual, so I appreciate you sticking around. If people like what you've been saying and they want to get more of it, where can they find you?
Yeah, if you like hot takes, very controversial opinions, sometimes with some vulgar language, come over and hang out with us on youtube.com/c/Project XTalk every Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. We are live. We run for a similar length. You have we got some people in the chat you can hang out with, friendly community. You can join our Discord server, chat with us there about games, shit talk people. Just coming over. You can follow us on Twitter, Project XTalk. You can follow me at the Muffinmon. That's a 1 instead of an I and an O instead of an A. And that's my gamer tag too. My PSN is the Muffinmon, which apparently someone took my gamer tag on PlayStation.
That always hurts when that happens.
How could that possibly happen?
And it's some dormant account, hasn't been played in 4 years, just sitting there.
Somebody took my shit on Instagram, so I had to put an underscore. I was really salty about that.
But yeah, come hang out with us if you like Xbox, especially, but in general gaming. If you just like gaming podcasts, come on over. We have people from the community. We're gonna have you guys on this week, so come on, hang out.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate having you guys here. And listeners, we really appreciate you guys joining us. If you're one of our regulars, thank you so much for sticking with us. We see you guys listening. If you want to be part of the show, you can always email us at pixelplaypodcast@gmail.com. We're on Instagram and Twitter at pixelplaycast. And yeah, if you're first time here, we hope it was good for you. And we'll hope to see you guys again next week. And we'll leave it there. Bye for now, guys.
Take care.